Yeah, renaming to single character, all the good stuff. Yeah, not much goes on here at the beginning of the game. There's about roughly 5 minutes of just like navigating through cutscenes and renaming characters and making our way before there's the first battle. Actually, not so bad compared to some other RPGs.
Yeah, we don't have to deal with any Super Mario Sunshine levels of waiting.
That's a hot button topic these days, I think. Yeah, so little interesting sort of small-scale speed tech. How fast you mash in this game will add up over the course of the run. You're able to close text boxes on the very last frame that they write out. So it's one of those things where if you play the game long enough, you can kind of play around with knowing how long most of the text boxes are, and you can kind of pulse instead of being forced to mash for the entire time. You can kind of time your mashing so that you don't fatigue yourself right away in the game. I saw a small menu there. They changed their controls, most likely, and they set the battle speed to 1 because it's fastest, and the battle cursor to memory, which enables a really good way to attack quickly, as well as sort of setting up your memory cursor so you can spend the least amount of time in the menu as possible for the battles.
We all know you got to go fast, so that's always important.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff in Chrono Trigger which is a little unintuitive for actually helping you go fast. And there's a lot of little things that will help save time. KaioSekka accidentally paused there before the cutscene because he was trying to do what's called Start plus B. Pretty much any menu in this game you can close on the first frame if you hold the Start button and the B button. Basically, holding the Start button allows you to make frame-perfect inputs during menus. It's used a lot in TASes. It's not so much usable for human inputs, but holding Start plus B at any point to either close a menu that you don't want to have open at all, or to get out of the menu really, really quickly, it will save you quite a bit of time over the course of the run. But you need to make sure that you don't accidentally pause the game when you're setting it up.
Burning through some tech smashing here, letting Marl be the guinea pig for the experimental first try of the telepod. Always nice to let just a random person go in first.
Do you think it'd be more gentlemanly if Chrono rode the teleporter first?
Well, I mean, he actually knows Luca, so it makes slightly more sense that he would trust her versus a random person trusting a random person with their teleportation device that may turn them into a horrible, disfigured thing.
Yeah, we've all seen that movie where I actually can't remember the name, where they try to teleport something and it's inside out and it comes back.
Oh, there's too many iterations of that meme at this point. There's I think The Fly is probably the original.
True. Yes.
But there's plenty more where that came from, as they say.
All right, so both players are going to pick up the pendant and head on back to the past. And we're going to have the first fight. So the first fight generally is pretty easy. There should be no way that you die or anything, but there's a couple different ways that it can unfold. Basically, you want to try and not get hit at all, but the inputs for that are actually pretty tight. Not ridiculously tight compared to some other inputs in this run, but it's pretty tight. And if you get hit by one extra, the way that the RNG sort of unfolds in this game is the final value of one fight will give you the starting value for the next fight. And if you get an extra attack, that's going to increment the final value of that fight, so your crits will be off for the fight after. And it's not necessarily the end of the world. Again, early, we're really just trying to skip enemy attacks and not have to heal at all. But with a game that's optimized, especially in the early portion of the game, you're actually saving like 2 or 3 seconds just by not getting hit, A, because you skip the enemy attack, and B, because it sets up criticals for the next set of fights, which will save you more time. It kind of compounds on itself. Same thing with mistakes, though, which is why this run is very punishing. Bird skip for KO, pretty nice and quick. Tzoonami's going for some pause buffer strats. If you press the left or any direction, really, and pause on the same frame, Chrono will move exactly 1 pixel. It's the only way to guarantee that you move 1 pixel in this game. Because even if you're walking and you tap a direction, it's kind of random whether you move 1 or 2 pixels. KO having a really clean Guardia Force there. Tzoonami getting caught on a tree or two. Not the end of the world, but clean movement in this game really does add up for your time. Hi, Jerry.
Yes, yes, Grog. Yes, this is to the Magus Castle Magus fight, not the Magus skip Magus fight, as we like to call it in the run community.
All right, yeah, we've actually got the racers for next race in the chat right now. Lunchtime and Elkin Jerry. So basically just getting through the last little bit of text here. Marley truly realizes what nothingness is by completely disappearing because we've messed up the time stream.
Damn entity, just throwing people into the randomness of nothing. What a jerk.
Yeah, I don't think we even get any reference to the entity in this run. It's only referenced in any percent and 100% runs. But it's actually the nice thing about this particular category, Defeat Magus, is apart from like 1 or 2 battles where you swap players to have someone else learn tech points, it's essentially all the same run, regardless of what category you run. So, for example, Tzoonami, he will generally play Defeat Magus and maybe some any percent runs, but KaioSekka, he runs 100%. And yeah, there's very little difference between the different categories up to the Magus fight. Afterwards, though, everything starts to diverge quite a bit. Alright, so here comes the first fight in the forest. So what we're going to have happen here is, because of the way that the criticals line up, we're going to try and attack the enemies, and an attack very quickly with Chrono here before one attacks is really helpful, mainly because it will stop the enemy from choosing to attack. A lot of these early enemies, if their turn comes up, they don't necessarily attack. They just kind of choose whether to attack or not. And so there's a little bit of RNG manipulation that way, just to make sure. Another thing that happened is we did what's called an overkill, where you attack an enemy with both players, but have it die after the first player's attack. And that's going to cause the RNG to jump, because it randomly picks another enemy to target pretty much any time that the game calls for a random number, the RNG is going to move forward. Nice clean fight from KO. Another overkill on Tzoonami's side. Yep, everything's looking pretty good. It feels like Tzoonami caught up a little bit within the battles. He's a little bit behind from his movement in Guardia Forest before, but
not enough to make a major difference yet.
Yeah. So this is the first fight that really matters for the speedrun early. Everything else beforehand, there's a couple different ways to do it, but ideally we're trying to end up in a proper window where we don't see a single slow spell from these Negaets. It's not so much that the slow spell hurts or kills us, it's just slow, and it slows our characters. All contrary to going fast. Yeah, and a quick fire whirl. The fire whirl at the end is a little tight. You want to make sure that the enemy doesn't get a chance to attack, because that will be a slow spell. And you lose like 6 to 8 seconds just on the animation. When you played this game casually silent, what did you name Frog when you first started playing? And people in chat, what was your first name for Frog?
When I started out, I would name them after whatever friend I had felt most matched the personality of said character. So, yeah, that's how I would roll when I was younger. Nowadays, I kind of go more canon. So, like Frog, I'll name Glenn. Magus, I'll name Janice. Marl, I'll name Nadia, to keep more in line with what their actual names are, since they're all a bunch of liars.
I see Froggy and Frog and Waifu.
Well, I mean, Ayla's actual name is Waifu, so I mean, there's that. And
that's true.
Shut up, Jerry.
So it looks like KO is decided to bypass the safety revive. Tzoonami is picking it up. There's really, like, for the defeat Magus category, there's not too much that can go wrong if one of your characters dies, but in the any percent run, or pretty much any of the other runs, there's a lot of spots where if your character misses one fight worth of XP or tech points, it's going to throw off your routing quite a bit. So having that revive, even just for race safety, it's a pretty good idea, but it's not necessary at all. Okay, being sure to walk around that bat. That's probably the easiest fight to get into here in the Cathedral. But funny, the bat's the only trigger in that room. None of the other enemies are. You can walk right through them. Yeah, so both players getting crits here from Frog. It's pretty awesome. It's just kind of the cherry on top for this current RNG string. The crit on the first guy skips his attack, which not only are you killing him in one attack instead of two, which saves time, but you're preventing him from getting attack off. And yeah, now we're going to be resetting, and anytime that you spend time on the file load screen, that's what your RNG is going to be once you actually start playing the game again. And we're going to be using a save and reload here to skip this boss. Safety save from KO. So this is the first real use of the fade out. You can walk into a transition and then open and close your menu using Start plus B, like I touched on earlier, to either walk into a battle trigger, or in this instance, we're walking onto a save point, which is going to turn on a flag and allow us to save anywhere we want in the next room. You're not normally able to save here, and you can save just above the boss trigger, and because of that, you've bypassed the the trigger where the game takes control of your characters. So you can regain control, doing a little bit of text canceling by scrolling characters off screen as they talk, but the main thing here is you just want to start the Yakra fight with the Yakra off screen. And the game's like, oh, he's dead. Okay, fine. And you move on from there.
Yeah, the game's pretty lazy. It doesn't seem to care too much once it's off screen.
But of course, he's actually still there, as you can see his feet on KO's screen. Princess getting nice and cozy. Queen, sorry. She's not a princess.
They're like the same person.
Essentially.
It's fine. Always important to get the real Chancellor out of the chest, otherwise that's a little bit of a time loss there as he complains and jumps out himself.
Yeah. So yeah, nice and clean from both players here. No issues so far. We're going to be coming up on the last real trick here before we go back to the present. Well, I guess second last trick. We can't forget the frog skip.
Yeah, you can't. If you do, that's like, you might as well just forfeit at that point, because it's just game over.
Game over, you know, a couple seconds lost. One of the two.
Same thing.
So, little difference in strategies here between tzoonami and KaioSekka. tzoonami just walked into the trigger from the bottom, while KO, he ran up, around, and then hit the trigger from the top. If you'll notice, it took almost no time there after the cutscene for Marley and Luca to group up with Chrono. Whereas here, it took quite a bit longer on tzoonami. It was probably about 3 times longer. Now, again, this is a minor thing, but it adds up over the course of the run.
Excellent frog skip.
Yep. Alright, so KaioSekka is coming up on the reverse bird skip. This is a skip, it really doesn't save too much time. It's only about 4 seconds or so. But it also helps us to save and reload and just make sure that we have the proper RNG load. KO mashed there. I'm not sure if he's going to... if he realizes or if he's going to reload later. tzoonami is waiting the appropriate amount of time on the save screen there. Both players hitting the skip very well, though. But KaioSekka was definitely supposed to wait a little bit longer on the file select screen before he chose the file.
Yeah, it didn't look like a big difference in time, but you'll be surprised how little amount of time can just completely change the RNG table for you.
Yeah. Yeah, the next thing, the reason for that reset ultimately is for a highest possible damage roll on the first fight in the prison, as well as a bunch of criticals on the boss. The criticals in this game are a little bit different, but it's basically distributed that like all characters have like a base rate, but then female characters have a slightly higher rate, and Frog with the hero medal or Chrono with the swallow, for example, have even higher crit rates. And it's actually easy for characters to steal crits in between each other, or like, for example, there might be an attack where Chrono attacks and it's not a crit, but if one of the female characters attacked, it would have been a crit. So you need to be in the proper window in order to have a quick fight, ultimately, with the Dragon Tank.
Shiva Edge also being one of the Chrono swords that affect the crit rate, but actually make it less chance crit.
Yeah.
I know that all too well, dear.
It was a valiant battle. So we're on to the trial.
We get our first taste of RNG in the run with the guilty non-guilty section. So let's get our guilties ready in chat. Guilty, please, for a little bit of a time save. Not too much, but every second counts.
Yeah. It really boils down to about 3 to 4 text boxes later on. They're pretty big text boxes, so you're talking about 8 seconds or so.
Lunch, are you cold? Do you need a quilt to warm yourself up? I think we can hook you up with that.
Maybe he's sick. Maybe it's a day quilty, please. So here, KO is making sure to blame Marley, saying that she's the reason that this all happened. All of the choices that can be made in this this particular sequence will force most of the guards to do what we want. There's just one guard who is stubborn, and he will make up his own mind, regardless of what we do. And Pierre tries so hard to get us not guilty. There we go. So KO admit guilt. And let's see, the second juror is the one who will make the choice ultimately. Oh.
Interesting. Let's see what Zoo gets.
Oh. So Tsunami falls even further behind. Instead of being about 8 seconds behind, he's now about 16. That's like doubling the gap right now. But don't worry, we've got some pretty troll guards coming up, so we'll see how both players are able to navigate them.
So I like to call it the tactical sneaking mission part of the game.
Yeah. Kind of expect exclamation points to show up over the guard's head. So yeah, Marley seems to think that the whole world revolves around her and that law and order doesn't matter. She's a princess. She gets what she wants.
She is the law.
Well, this is what happens when you change the timeline. I have no sympathy for these players at all.
Yeah, they should have just left Marl in the nether region void of wherever the heck that the entity put her.
Yeah, Chrono's like, I have no idea who she is. Let's go beat stuff up with my wooden sword again.
Gotta get that training in.
Alright. So KO's waking up here. Drinking
we'll see.
some
We'll see if he resets the
yeah.
Yep, he didn't go for the reset.
Yeah, it's one of those things you can get very focused on trying to nail the reverse bird skip and completely forget to do your proper reload, but now KO isn't quite as far ahead. In fact, Tsunami has essentially gained back the 8 seconds from the guilty verdict.
Almost sync. So close.
I don't see a sink in that jail cell.
That'd be quite the jail cell.
Alright, so with 2 power tabs and the power glove, and the highest possible damage roll for Chrono at this level, thanks to RNG manipulation, we get a 60 on this guy. Oh, KO.
Ah.
Yeah. Looks like Tsunami's pulling into the lead.
That was actually
Okay.
Oh wow! Oh wow! Trolley shield guys today.
Yeah, these guys are not letting anyone by today. So I think we're gonna see a different strategy here. Looks like Tsunami is just going to fight these guys and move forward. He's not going to bother to reset. Tsunami's been speedrunning this game for quite a bit, although more casually. But he's aware of a lot of the backups and just ways to play through this, even if he's off the current RNG windows. So I kind of have a feeling that in the end, Kaio is going to pull ahead, especially with Tsunami dropping these fade outs here.
Those shield guys are actually one of the first skips that I knew about casually, just sneaking by.
All right, Tsunami successfully skips that. Kaio is just biting on his heels right now. Tsunami, oh, I thought that was a favorable pattern. He maybe could have went for it. It was iffy though. He turns around pretty quickly for Kaio. So these guys just move very randomly. Oh,
wow.
Kaio.
Oh, that was dangerously close.
This is essentially frame perfect. You've hit him on the same frame that he decided to turn. One more fade out here for Tsunami. So yeah, I think Kaio is going to end up ahead here. Tsunami is going to have to do the old school triple fire whirl strat. So pretty much different strategies altogether. Kaio is going to leverage Chrono's attack power with critical manipulation, and Tsunami is going to be leveraging Luca's newly increased magic power thanks to the unequipped glitch that we did in the same menu during the Yakra skip. Never really touched on it, but basically we removed her armor and helmet, which gave her a really big boost to her magic attack. She's more susceptible to physical attacks and fire attacks, but she has a huge defense against every other type of magic, which is going to come into play quite a bit over the run.
Yeah, we don't normally get to see two different strats going on with the dragon tanks. This will be fun to watch.
Yeah, so Tsunami waits for the two heals and does a fire whirl. Luckily, the fire whirl doesn't cause the head to counter with a heal attack, but a cyclone will. So we'll see on Kaio's side a cyclone as the attack, which actually finishes off the head. But yeah, the critical fight that Kaio's having is going to be faster because there's less healing involved. 3 fire whirls from Tsunami should take out the wheel in the body. And now he's just got to focus on the head. Probably going to have to worry about healing Chrono as well. Decides to heal Luca as well.
Probably a good idea just to be safe.
Yeah.
You never know what you're going to get from this, so...
Once the body and the wheel's dead, this fight's a lot less dangerous. But generally, you're not going to be able to kill the body and the wheel before the head just, like, heals you. But when you wait for the 2 heals, you're able to sneak those attacks in just quickly enough before the head heals. Yeah, so here's Kaio pulling ahead. Tsunami's still got a little bit more damage to do. He's got to do 600 damage to the head. Yeah, the prison's been pretty wild here. But I think when it's all said and done, Tsunami's still only about 30 seconds behind, which isn't too bad, so we still have a race here. He's going to lose a little bit more time in the future because KaioSekka knows exactly what's going to happen in all the fights, where Tsunami's going to have to improvise.
And another thing to note on healing in the Dragon Tank, you're safe. You're better off healing to be safe because you don't have that. Well, you have like one revive at that point, so losing a character is pretty detrimental at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, Tsunami luckily did pick up the safety revive, but it looks like he didn't need it, and neither did KO. Yeah, this is one of the nice things about the route here. The first guard that we got the 60 on, he dropped a tonic, and we were able to use that just to be sure that we didn't die. Pick up a couple more mid-tonics from the 2 that we knocked out. And that last mid-tonic that Tsunami hasn't used yet is going to come in pretty big help. It's going to be a real help, anyway, for the our series fight. Yeah, so there's some guys in chat talking about reds and greens. There's a fight coming up, which is the last really big point of RNG in the run. Everything else should be relatively execution-based, where there's 60 different frames in a second, and during that time, there is 60 different possible permutations of red and green slimes for the 5 slime fight. Either different colors or different locations in the fight. There's only one of those possible, which will give you 5 greens, and 5 greens is really what you want. They give you more experience than the reds. They're easier to kill, and if you have like large groups of singular colors, you don't get nearly as much counterattacks because the greens will counter if they are too close to a red when you attack them.
Well, now we're coming up through Lab 16, getting to use one of the rare used skips in the game, where you use the text boxes from the rats stealing from you to actually be able to pass through the encounter triggers. You don't get to see that very often in the game, especially in this specific run. That's the only instance that it's used, but I don't believe it's used later on, but I could be wrong on that.
No, I think this game, as you progress through it, each of the zones is programmed like slightly differently. Ooh, tzoonami. He got stolen a little bit too early. He wasn't able to do the thing. He didn't pick up that chest either. Okay, he noticed. Good. That's the load bow, I believe. Yeah.
Not as important as the Berserker chest, but still slightly important to grab that load bow.
Yeah, the load bow is really only going to matter for this one fight up here, and then it's really one of the last times that we use Marley for the rest of the run. Alright, so KO is doing the Guardian skip. It's another instance of the fade-out glitch, but it's a little bit different. Looks like KO doesn't swap his controls and plays with vanilla controls. So he had to swap his X and Y button, or his A and X button. It really doesn't matter. He's basically just trying to get the menu button off of the X button, so that he can do the fade-out and skip the boss. Because in that room, if you press the X button, you get into a fight. And we don't have access to the second menu yet, the character swap menu. We don't get that until we get to the end of time. Tzoonami does play with swap controls, so he doesn't need to pop into his menu the first time to actually set it up.
Yeah, it's tough for us old casual players to completely change our button layout for the whole run. A little easier to just do a quick swap there, even though it's a little bit slower overall than just having the controls switched from the beginning and keeping them that way.
Shoot, looks like Tzoonami failed his last fade out there. But he got it this time. It's one of the things when you're trying to save time by turning one of your fade out menus into an equip menu, you can sometimes forget where you were, and maybe you needed to just like hold up after getting out of the menu, and it's easy to forget that.
Always important to check the guy after he's been checked. I see sometimes people forget that and then run out to grab the rat, and the rat's not in run mode, it's still in statue mode.
Yeah. There's actually, for the speed run, kind of a tricky spot, because you want to mash after the first cutscene into the text so that you can activate the rat. But it's also very easy to mash into that particular text again. So you kind of have to mash through the first part of it and then just hit A once at the very end and sort of time it just right.
Looks like they're high five here on the platform. Zoo going into and Kaio leaving the Lavos destruction video. Oh, Kyle getting a weird bug set up there, but he got around it still.
Yeah, he's just gonna be patient here with the gremlins. It's a fair thing to do. He's still on the RNG, so he doesn't want to get in any fights. He wants to get the big, awesome crit from Robo later, and the two nice crits from Marley coming up. Like I said, there's been quite a few iterations of these particular battles over time. And it's just come down to maximizing the amount of crits to reduce animation time. It's not even the amount of damage you're doing, it's just reducing animation time. Well, it's also the damage you're doing, but... Alright, this is the hardest boss in the game. The one, the only, Johnny, the man. Alright, so this fight isn't... This race, I guess, isn't too bad. Really, if you want to reduce it down to how to win or not, you just use your boost and don't boost into the back of Johnny with like 20 to 30 left in the fight, and you should be fine. But the more you bounce on the top of, or like at the front of Johnny, staying in front of him, you will save time. But it's one of those things that if you lose, it costs you a minute. So as long as you don't lose, even if you win a little bit slowly, it's not going to matter that much. The dude. Alright, so there's more than a minute now that separates these racers. Tzoonami's made a few sloppy plays, lost him time, nothing that's like super rough. It's just like dropping fade outs and mainly the dropping fade outs. Kaio making sure not to have Chrono get attacked. He will die if that happens. And without a revive to bring him back, he will be short a little bit of XP anyway. 54 doesn't seem like a lot, but it's kind of necessary. Tsunami making very sure that Johnny is not a factor in this race. He has been erased. Omer is correct. It is time to get robo-rolled. Everyone get ready. Never gonna give you up. Never gonna let you down. Never gonna robo-roll around and desert you. Never gonna make you cry. Never gonna say goodbye. I am a robot. I am here for you.
I'm still waiting for the Robo sprite being replaced with Rick Astley's face mod.
Well, I was thinking, I didn't have any time to prepare it, but I was thinking of doing kind of an homage to Dr. Bobtastic and what he does in the Link to the Past randomizer runs, and then just take a random song and sing the lyrics to the Rick Astley gem tune. One of these races, I'll do that.
Maybe the finale. You.
So luckily for us, the default option is to have Luca in the party. Doesn't really matter that much who comes, since Chrono is going to be doing the majority of the damage. But Luca's speed being a little bit slower than Marley actually kind of works out for this fight. Alright, so we get to see the difference between on and off RNG here. Chrono attacks for 1, and Robo has a big, awesome crit for 10. This is really the last bit of manipulation, since there's not much you can do with the 5 slime fight, since you can't tell what slime is going to spawn in which position. And interesting to note there, the way that we've picked up items, there was a couple shelters along the way, but the shelter that we picked up post Dragon Tank is a little bit faster because it'll put it in a position where when you go into your menu, you press L and it'll just move you right down on top of the shelter. So instead of kind of fumbling and scrolling around to get to your shelter, you can just get to it with a single clean button press as soon as you're in the item menu. Alright, what do the slimes give KO? And not really that good of a pattern. The greens and the oranges are all next to each other. Gonna try and rocket punch a green. Also just playing to the fact that sometimes a rocket punch from Robo won't kill a green, even though you wish it would. He's gonna go for it this time. Yeah, and there it is. Shoot, man. Like, those rocket punches should always kill a green, but sometimes you just get the most obscenely low damage rolls. Like, I've seen a 5. Like, that's super frustrating, because most of the time that works. You can do up to like 12 or 13 damage to those guys. I've even seen more than that. But it's just unfortunate at such a low level you don't really have the stats to really do much more than a couple damage per attack.
Yeah, and the big tease being that if you actually had the slash tech, you'd be able to mow through these things very easily.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, with Chrono being at level, what, 3 at this point? Or
yeah.
I think he gets to level 4 after this fight. He's nowhere near the tech points required to have it. Ah, level 6. Okay.
Yeah, tzoonami with not necessarily the best pattern, but if he can take care of this green slime in the first attack, then he doesn't really have to worry about counters anymore. Or he gets a 5.
Oh, was that the? Is like 1 higher than the min?
Yeah, that's pretty rough. Like, okay. I was gonna say, if a rocket punch and a cyclone didn't kill the green slime, I would be super salty.
Green slime mini boss confirmed.
Yeah. Robo getting a nice 7 damage just with a base attack on the acids here.
Yeah, Robo showcasing a common theme in the game that when a party member joins, they're usually OP compared to the rest of the team that is currently with them.
Yeah. Yeah, it happens with Robo, happens with Ayla. I mean, Magus is like 15 levels above your party when you get him in a speedrun.
Happens with Frog. Pretty much everybody, except for the original trio, is pretty much completely overpowered compared to the rest of the characters.
Alright, tzoonami made it through that. Neither player having really a good slime fight. And the real funny thing about the slime fight is even if you were to enter that fight on a particular like RNG value, every time they move, they increment RNG, and it's just like it's almost impossible to actually manipulate that fight. If other enemies were scripted the way those guys were, it would put a pretty big damper on speedrunning this game. Consistently, that is.
This game would be run glitchless, probably, if that was the case.
There would still be mad people. I know it. So the R series fights straightforward on the surface. You want to use 4 cyclones. But there's a lot that could go wrong. These guys are really fast, so you want to be very quick. And if you're not quick, you need to be quick in thinking of how you're going to approach what the game gives you.
The real important things are making sure that you take out the back row, because those guys have much longer attack times, because they have to, if they're doing their single attacks, it takes them longer to get to whoever they're attacking, and then they have that atrociously long tossing, punching you back and forth between another robot. And then you also want to make sure that you don't have one guy left out of the 6, because if you do, he has much stronger attacks and goes pretty ham on you if that's the case.
Yeah. Pretty much as soon as you kill any robot in the front or back row, they will start countering you anytime that you hit them. So you kind of want to kill all the rows, or pretty much all the robots, like at the same time, essentially. Like you take out the back row, they're not going to counter until the next attack on them, and then you kill everyone in the front row here. If you accidentally attack the bottom 2, like you mash your cyclone and you don't choose the center one, you need to make sure that you don't just like try and flame toss or something. You need to wait for Chrono's turn. If you have the MP, cycloning again is best. But if you are like really, really low health, you're probably going to want to like heal with Luca and then do a Chrono attack.
All the backups.
Yeah. Because as Silent said, if you leave one there and attack him and you don't kill him, his counter is an attack all, and it's pretty powerful.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, it's the like self-destruct explosion, basically. I don't know what it's officially called in the game.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank on that myself.
The Tropos uses a similar attack when you fight her very later in the game, in the Robo side quest.
Alright, tzoonami skipping the second round of attacks from the back, our series as well. That's kind of the most important reason for being very quick with your attacks. If the bat gets a second round of attacks off, that's another 90 damage that you have to absorb on top of the loss of time from the animations of all the attacks.
If you're lucky, that damage is spread out between the two characters, and if you're unlucky, somebody gets killed. So you want to definitely avoid that as much as possible.
Alright, so long, robots. You tried to stop us, but you couldn't stop us.
They're just jealous because Robo's gold color.
Alright, so Kaio is about to go meet little Froggy Specchio. Learn a little bit of magic. And like I sort of touched on earlier, where Luca doesn't have any armor or helmet on and gets a magic boost, we're going to be doing that for all of our characters. The physical damage increase is completely outweighed by the magical damage decrease that the party members take, as well as the magical damage increase that they output. The original fight for the next real boss that we're going to be fighting, Masamune, used to use this party with Chrono, Marley, and Luca, and use Antipode on the boss because it was the most powerful spell that we have. And if it wasn't for the Berserk fight, it would still be the quickest fight that we have.
The Berserk being one of the most important items in the entire run, as it allows for a ton of easier manipulation, as well as the always hilarious upcoming flea fight.
Alright, so Kaio, I'm not sure if he's going to be picking up this tab or not. It's kind of the same thing that we saw with Background Guy. He almost strictly runs 100%, and picking up the tab here is important for that run. Yeah, it looks like he's going to go for it. It's not necessarily that important for Defeat Magus, because the tab isn't really used until after the Magus fight, as you're entering the Black Chrono lair.
But muscle memory is very much a thing.
It is. It's nice seeing Robo here. Generally, you're kind of losing time with Marley having the Berserker, because she's just going to attack anything that she sees.
She's an angry princess, after all.
Yes, very, very angry princess. But here Kaio is actually going to have a nice easy time making sure that he can run away as quick as possible. I don't think we've really touched on running away quickly. If you hold the LNR button as the battle starts, if you open up one of the menus, whether it's the item menu or tech menu, the runaway counter will still keep counting up, basically, regardless of whether the battle is progressing forward. So you can pop into the menu, have your counter fill up, and then pop out of the menu, and you'll just run away instantly. And it's nice because it avoids any enemy attacks. And it's also nice for RNG manipulation, because each battle kind of jumps to a certain value, and then when you run away, you can normalize your RNG value because of battles that you got into but didn't really fight anything in. You know exactly what your crit value and everything is coming out of it.
Not to mention, you also are given the opportunity to set whatever tech or item for a character, if that's something you need to be doing. Not always the case, but sometimes the case.
Yeah, there are a couple fights where you want to do that. Did Kaio save before he reset? Okay. I just didn't see the save. I got real worried there for a second. Nice, clean Hecker and skip.
A little too YOLO for DD's taste.
3 thumbs up. Had me going.
Got him.
Yeah, so Tsunami's going to have to try and run away from these fights, battling a Berserk Marley who, because of the Berserk, actually has a increased ability to sneak in with their attacks. Berserk will actually jump ahead of even enemies' turns sometimes, which we will see used in the Mesamine fight, I believe. Alright, so the Hacker and Skip's pretty tough. It's nice to see KO just nail that. And now he's on to End of Time Save Anywhere, which saves between 30 and 40 seconds, depending on how cleanly you're playing. This is pretty tough. I'll try and walk you through it as it happens. But even before he enters the screen, he's holding up and right. Because if you start running up and right out of the thing, it'll actually offset player 2 and player 3's position. And it's pretty important for the setup. He's going to talk to the old man here, keep the text box alive by opening and closing the menu, and holding A, he's able to store one of the pillars behind this old man's text box. And he's going to press A. He's going for the double tap. Looks like he should be good. And he's going to wait for Chrono to start zipping. There it is. Swap party members and allows them to regain control. And he gets onto the save point and grabs Save Anywhere.
Nicely done.
Yeah, that was awesome. He even went for the old strat, which is only 75%, and it's pretty much as pure as RNG can get. So, I mean, you know, 3 to 4 is pretty easy to hit, but, you know, you hit that 1 and 4 more often than you'd like when you go for it that way. There is a way to pause buffer your inputs to get 100% consistency, but that's relatively new and not all runners go for it yet. Tzoonami threw the Hecker and Skip as well. Wasn't too tough for him.
Always important, Captain, first before you go for the jerky.
Yes. Otherwise, the chef just grumbles over and over.
And nobody wants that.
A little bit more text canceling. There's very few places that it comes up in the game other than like the acro skippity here. You just need to make sure that the text box. Oh, here we've got the pause strat. Looks like Tzoonami missed all of his possible good frames.
Feels bad frames.
Yeah, and you only have about, I think it's a 6-frame window to open and close your menu here to keep the text box. So it's a little bit more difficult than it might seem. But he's got it. Alright, so KO's going for Yakra, or not Yakra, Zombor Skip. Looks like he hit it first try. Here he's using Release Bees, basically not running for a very short period of time in order to set up a proper frame rule to get over the trigger and then be able to save past the trigger. That's about as clean as it can get for the Zombor Skip.
Yep. Nicely done.
And it looks like Tzoonami hit End of Time Save Anywhere. Very nice. But KO's blowing through. This is kind of where I see a lot of races kind of end up not necessarily being decided, but like things become very real for runners. These skips are very difficult. The End of Time Save Anywhere, the Zombor Skip, and the Hecker and Skip. It's really tough, and they're all 3 right back to back from each other. So you want to be able to get all 3 of those relatively consistently in order to not lose too much time. Yeah, it always feels really, really good when you get through all 3 of those skips with, like, first try, no issues.
Yeah, especially because, like, for the next, like, 30 to 40 minutes of the run, you don't have too much difficulty left. You just have really the Masamune fight, which, as the years gone by, has gotten progressively more consistent. And then from there, you're really just getting to Magus Castle. 65 million BC doesn't really give you too much trouble.
Yeah, there's some tight stuff in 65 million BC, but overall, yeah, it's not very hard. Like, the boss is not doing any damage because of the glitches that we're using.
Yeah, Nizbal's pretty much laughable as a boss in this run, and don't really have too much else to worry about. In the forest maze, you're skipping every encounter if you're doing it correctly, and the encounters that you're dealing with in the I always forget what that part is called after the forest maze, but that part you don't have too many difficult encounters to deal with either.
Oh, the Magic Cave?
Is that what it's called? Magic Cave? Okay.
Like, no. To Magus Castle?
No, through the forest maze, there's like the little like stone.
Oh, the Reptite lair. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go, Reptite lair.
Tzoonami nailing the Zombor skip first try. Awesome. Keeping this race very real. Ooh, Kaio actually getting a possible fast bird. It's kind of interesting. There's like a 1 in 4 chance that you can regain control of Chrono instantly. And if you realize that that's happened, you can actually beat a cycle on the bird who's blocking your way.
But that is slightly dangerous, because if you're wrong and then that bird knocks you back and you have that fight, you have to deal with a reset to get the RNG value back, because you don't want to deal with this fight without the RNG.
I think if that happened to me in a race, I'd probably just pull the Berserker off Chrono and YOLO the fight, instead of spending another like minute and a half running through Denadoro again. I mean, I suppose you could even swap Marley in, and I suppose you can't do that. But if you did the safety shop, you might be able to swap Marley in. But regardless, everything's going well here for Kaio so far.
Yeah, right on script. Looking good.
Yeah, with Chrono having the Berserker, if you are late on any of your attacks, he's going to attack the wrong twin here. You want to do 1,000 damage to one or the other, but each has their own like independent health pool. So if you start attacking in between the two, you're just wasting time, essentially. And in the second phase, Chrono's the only one who's able to break Masamune out of his counter phase, and with Chrono Berserked, you can't do that. So you're kind of relying on doing enough damage, and it's barely enough damage. You get Masamune past half health, and he resets his AI to his second phase, where he does a little bit more damage.
Not to mention, you don't have everyone unequipped in this fight, so his AoE attack that he does when he does that charge up will do pretty hefty damage to both Robo and Chrono.
Yeah, it's about 140 to 170 on Chrono and Robo. A little less on Chrono because he has a natural defense to win magic, but... everything seems to be going well. Looks like Kaio's doing the newer split attacks. The original version of this fight, you used fire punches pretty much all the time, but when you split the attacks between fire and rocket punch, you're actually able to sort of kite Masa and Mune to not necessarily attack too many people.
Yeah, this fight is one of the instances in the game where the the boss's positioning actually affects how and if he does attacks.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of fickle stuff with this fight, which isn't the most fun to deal with. Because the way that the ATB sort of moves forward, when you're on the wait ATB, technically nothing happens while you're in the menu, but there's a difference between like an animation finishing and the ATB going into like waiting for you to pop out of the menu and having your attack fully queued and the ATB just progressing where you're not in a menu. And the slight differences there will cause you to fall off script. So TLDR, put all your attacks in while another animation is happening and you should be fine.
KO wrapping up the fight
Yep.
perfectly. Easy peasy. Now we get to go on the adventure quest of repairing the Masamune. And we get to see everyone's favorite character, and yes, I said everyone, Jerry. Ayla coming up.
Sweet. I mean, she's strongest, most healthy, and none of these things are even debatable.
Plus, she's the only character that can charm. That's just winning right there.
Yeah. Okay, so this is another instance of unequip. This is basically going to be the only time for the rest of the run that we're going to see unequipping, at least for this category. It's very important that you unequip correctly, because if you sell a piece of equipment or not sell a piece of equipment, it's not going to work out. The only way that you're able to unequip is if you don't have any other equipment that can fit on that slot. And you're kind of doing a... You're moving the menu in two different ways on the same frame. So you press up and L or down, or up and R or down and L.
Oh,
so
yikes.
Go...
Chrono down for a zoo. Using his only revive on him. He was about to get hit with the AoE attack. It's going to be tight.
It's fine. I think in this situation, it's kind of best that Chrono kind of takes a bit of a nap. Alright, I think he should be okay. Oh, he's resetting. Okay. That's really unfortunate. Was that a troll Massa?
I think so. I didn't get to catch the first half of the Masamune part of the fight.
Everything seemed fine when I was watching the beginning.
Yeah, so, I don't know if he I think it was a misinput, but I can't say for sure on that because the health values were off on them before Chrono got knocked out the first time. So I think that it was probably off. I'm not sure though.
Yeah. I was really sort of biting my tongue. I didn't want to say anything and do a commentary curse. But this is the part of the run where a mistake will cost you the most time, essentially. If you want to go for the exact same strats, again, you're going to have to reset all the way back to the Tata skip here. Yeah, tzoonami himself is a little bit puzzled as to what happened there. It looks like he was following the script properly.
Yeah, that's why my guess is an input. Just mistimed, caused it.
Yeah.
It looked like I said, it looked like Masamune was mispositioned and was doing some counters where he wasn't supposed to be. But again, I didn't catch all of the fight, so I can't say for sure.
Yeah, now tzoonami is kind of having a bit of an issue getting back onto the proper window here. This load, you need to mash it. There's two possible windows that you can mash into. But you just don't want anything past the first 2 windows, and that really boils down to Chrono attacking the left guy instead of the right guy. Kaio, on the other hand, he has defeated Masamune, gathered both parts of the sword, and asking Melchior for a little bit of help. Alright, perfect. He did a fade out just to skip some text there, but sometimes it's hard to tell if you actually got the story trigger to progress, and by saving there, you'll actually be able to tell by it saying the rare red rock. So it looks like Tzoonami might have had enough of Masamune. The guy didn't skip leg day apparently and kicked some booty. That's unfortunate. Alright, so KO's got to do a slash here. And he got his menu. Oh, he's going for Firewhirl. Nice. He closed 2 text boxes before this fight in a very specific way to have the enemies move so that he could slash them. There she is. Isn't she amazing? Alright, so there's 2 ways to approach this fight. You can do 2 slashes with Chrono, or a slash and a flame toss. The 2 slashes is a little bit faster, but the slash and the flame toss is safer. Although I don't think it really matters too much. Looks like KO ended up healing here. Because you can actually not heal post Masamune fight and just keep going and not heal until you're at the save point right before... No, Tzoonami had a bit of an issue with the Masamune boss. And he decided to forfeit instead of continuing his run, it looks like. So there's a Berserker that KO just ran by. It's actually something that we need in this run, but we already have 1, and we don't really need 2 for this section. So we're going to pick it up on the way out. It just makes dealing with the dinosaurs here a little bit quicker and easier.
Always important to move Marl out before the party, because she takes the most amount of time away to get to the point where Ayla will challenge you with the quote-unquote soup chugging contest. You want to make sure that you talk to Robo here, as he has the least amount of text, and Luca's a little bit slower, but not a ton slower than Robo, but yeah, you're better off just talking to Robo, and then just letting him do his thing there, he running in place and stuff. And then, yep, there you go. And then here you just want to get 8 soup or soup. I don't even know what you would call those monstrous bowls, but 8 is all you need to beat Ayla. And then There you go.
I would call them monstrous bowls.
They're almost like personal bathtubs.
Bathing in Skull Smash. I'm down.
I've heard of worse ideas.
Alright, so Ayla is going to offer to join our party. What a peach. Sorry, waifu.
Get it right, Dee Dee.
Alright, so we got a fade out here. We're going to skip talking to Kino. Kino's a great character. Kappa.
I like to call this skip jerk skip, personally, but, you know, it's just me.
Basically, no one cares about Kino, and good riddance.
Yep. Go back home, Kino. Go back home. And then we get to see a nice brisk jog through the forest maze, avoiding all the encounters. There's a lot of encounters in this place, but you wouldn't know it from this run.
Just a safety save, just in case. Alright, so as long as everything was correct, he should be getting hit for 34. Looks good. So yeah, if you consider Chrono Slash would normally hit those guys for about 120. So having both pieces of armor unequipped, it's really going a long way. Something like that, zombie. Okay, finally finding his way into the hole there. Ooh, just narrowly missing that reptite. Yeah, this fight is very important to get your runaway before any enemy gets a chance to attack, because we want our crits to be properly manipulated for the fight afterwards. Berserker.
Important to steal the ruby best for later, for the Magus castle parts.
Yeah, it kind of serves two purposes. It unequips her so that she's protected from the lightning attack, but we do need it a little bit later as well. Yeah, so this boss, lightning attack will drop his defense, and then you just wail on him with your best attacks.
Pretty much Ayla doing most of the heavy lifting here.
Yeah. Yeah, Berserker gives you plus 50% damage, so if you were to do 100, you do 150. And with RNG manipulation, we're also adding crits into the mix, which doubles your damage. So instead of dealing about 160 with a regular attack, with the Berserker and the crit, she's doing like 420 damage, which is insane, really, for this point in the game.
And as you mentioned earlier, the ladies get a higher crit rate, so Ayla's going to be critting quite a bit in this fight.
Yeah. Lady crits are the best crits.
Indeed.
Yeah, so it looks like the guys in the chat are trying to figure out exactly what happened on Tzoonami's screen. Masamune, he's very likely to slip, even if you do like one menu a little bit too late or too early, for example. So I'd imagine it was something like that, but there are a couple position-based trolls that can happen. There's a few ways to mitigate it. So if the ladder that you run up just before you pick up the sword to start the fight, if you hit the right-hand edge of it and have it sort of push you, it can kind of eliminate some of the pixel trolls that you can get. But there are some times where that fight just, like, for some reason falls off. It can be a little bit trying sometimes. But there are different ways that you can approach that fight.
Yeah, sadly, the Masamune fight is, for at least the Defeat Magus run, is the most, won't say difficult, but definitely the most trying fight besides, maybe Magus himself, if you're off the RNG. But
yeah, there's some, like, pretty complex stack assembly things that can happen even between like different versions of the console, or like the OG version of the Super Nintendo and the one chip, and whatever version your emulator might be emulating might have something to do with it too. Because the Berserker really is on the edge of like the ATB. It's almost outside of the ATB and how it's able to like sneak turns in where it really doesn't feel like it should be able to. And it is possible for things to just not quite unfold the right way. So Kaio's doing another fade out into the basement. Swapping to both girls. If Robo's in your party, there'll be a bunch of extra animations during this cutscene, but by retaining control of all your characters, by having the two girls in Party 2 and Party 3, you can skip the majority of the dialogue and the animation in the scene, and Melchior will say, "It's just about done, let's begin," which is kind of weird, but, glitches and saving time.
those Zillions are always so funny.
I still think that the old Masamune strat, which is only about 3.5 seconds slower, I've never had a troll with it. And it's why I still use that particular strategy. Alright, so we've collected the repaired Masamune. We're going to drop it off to Frog, and we're going to go into story time. So everyone grab your marshmallows. Grab your frogs. Grab your swords. It's going to be a real fun time. Story time.
Let's see if we can get a new appearance.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is trip number 3 through. I don't think I've seen any news from any of the characters
No,
or any of the runners.
I believe we've been newless so far.
And we're only going to see 6 travels through the forest this run instead of the 8, or this race instead of the 8. So we've only got one more chance to get a new.
And now we get the Cyrus Glenn spin-off that nobody wanted.
It's actually a pretty good story. I mean, you have to do some sort of exposition. The Magus fight... Sorry about that, guys. The Magus fight, it's pretty much something that almost feels endgame. You know, they do a really good job of building it up as being, like, this is the big bad, he's super evil, he killed Cyrus, he turned Glenn into a frog, wreaking havoc everywhere.
He's about to make Lavos. I mean, yeah. Come on. What a jerk.
And I mean, he's got a cool castle, he's got his own dungeon, the music is very atmospheric, you know? It really feels like you're working towards some endgame stuff. It's one of the things I like about Chrono Trigger is like almost every dungeon feels like something new and fresh, and it's got that anxiety. So this cutscene does serve a purpose in building up the story and making you realize just how bad a dude this Magus is and why we want to defeat him.
And it gives you a good character development on how Glenn goes from being a...
marshmallow?
Yeah. A sword-holding marshmallow to a mountain-clearing badass in the span of a few long years.
And that's an interesting perspective. Kaio actually just wrote in chat that Magus did everything to save his sister, and that's actually true. It's one thing that I really like about this game is that someone who you feel is so evil and so bad and is this like potential end boss turns out to be someone who is very much like you, lost in time, and wants revenge on the creature that's caused all this.
He just uses basically everyone he can to get what he needs, so he comes off as a jerk, even though, like you said, he's pretty much doing it out of love.
Some strange, twisted, Zelian love. All right, so we're gonna see Robo get swapped in. That should be it for party swaps, unless we see some fire and X strikes a little bit later, just before the Magus fight.
No news. Sad.
Sometimes no news is good news.
That's a. Eh.
It's a thing. And yes, Magus is still a jerk, though.
There we go. There's some news.
So one of the nice things about this game is it's got a very quirky translation. You know, like calling Glenn a marshmallow is pretty funny here. And it's like, but it hurts when they hit me. Oh, Glenn, such a marshmallow. I think there was a lot of other words they could have used to get that across, but marshmallow was just so perfect.
Just soft and squishy and sweet. And great in a s'more. I mean, what?
Xenon Bridge does kind of look like graham crackers.
I always felt bad for Cyrus, as you know, it's established that Glenn's a better sword fighter than him, and yet Glenn chooses not to fight at all, and imagine an alternate universe where Cyrus and Glenn fight together against Magus. So it'd be a very interesting story in its own.
Some sort of interdimensional, both wielding the Masamune.
I would assume Glenn would get the Masamune since he's a better sword fighter than Cyrus, but maybe they could like hold it together, and swing at the same time, or something equally ridiculous.
Aw, holding hands. Like Cyrus behind Frog, caressing the back of his hand as he's swinging the sword.
I mean, come on, that's what everybody wants anyway, so.
It's like Ghost, but Chrono Trigger. Alright, now for the ultimate meta cutscene, where Robo cuts in the cutscene. Or, sorry, Frog cuts in the cutscene. Sword goes up, mountain goes down.
Call 1-800-FROG-CUTS to have your mountain cutting needs taken care of extra quick.
You won't be cleave our rates. Alright, so that was about 6.5 minutes of cutscenes between the two, but we are back into speedrun territory. Kaio should be buffering his movement here. He wants to move as soon as the game allows him to. It's very important for the battle skip after this battle.
Yeah, you don't want to be dealing with like the 8 rats that will ruin your day if you do not get out of there fast enough. Because they're not super strong, but at the levels that the characters are at, it would be an annoying fight if you had to get into it.
It's kind of interesting. If there was any more text there, you wouldn't actually be able to squeeze through there in time. The bat moving back and forth, it's still kind of happening as text is writing and stuff. But in the Japanese version, since the text is so much quicker, that skip is essentially free and isn't really even a skip. You're basically just walking. But because of the extra text on the US version, it's actually a thing that you need to pay attention to. Alright, so Kaio got a 19 on the one attack that hit Chrono. So he knows he's good. And by good, I mean on the correct RNG. There's some fights here in Magus' castle where you could fight them and you could beat them at this level. No real big issue. But if you are able to use the RNG manipulation, you can get a very, very favorable fight.
Now we get a nice little tour of the castle before any fights go down. It's nice of Ozzy to let you case the joint before you actually have to do anything relevant.
Hey, look, the runners are on the same screen.
Too soon.
Alright, so here we get the single chord song, which we'll be playing for a little bit anyway.
The super spoopy song, as we all know it and love it.
Yeah, so Crimson Rain on Frog is ideal. And then a Rocket Roll. Now normally this Rocket Roll would not be able to do this much damage, but again, this is a situation where the unequipped glitch and its damage bonus really shows its strength. In the Japanese version of this game, this fight takes quite a bit longer because you're just not able to output enough damage to one-shot these guys.
And those guys have really long attack animations with the their Crimson Rains and the bats doing their little blood-sucking attack and everything.
Because for some reason, it makes 0 sense, but you don't get the magic attack boost in the Japanese version of the game. So while you may save time on text, there's a lot of places where you lose time on battles. Like if you take any percent, for example, even though, pardon me, even though the Japanese text is way, way faster, there's really only about 1 minute and 15 seconds difference between the two runs. Because the US version saves so much time on the Magus fight, a couple other smaller fights, and the Black Chrono fight helps quite a bit too. So like I said, RNG manipulation is good. This fight is ridiculous. This is the biggest bathroom break that any of the runners get.
It's kind of disappointing that you get pretty much this and then the Chrono Dream sequence like pretty soon between, or pretty close to each other as the only real like non-input points in the run of like a full any percent run, of course.
Yeah,
you'd like to have that spread out a little bit more.
So if you're wondering what's going on here, essentially it's kind of a combination of Frog and Flea having the same speed and the Berserker stealing priority from Flea. So Flea thinks about attacking, but then gets attacked by a Berserker, which is kind of jumping priority. And so Flea needs to retarget his attack. Sorry. And yes, basically does nothing. Just sits there laughing.
Flea just really finds this battle amusing, so he just sits there and laughs.
Eventually Flea breaks out of this. So we're gonna do some extra attacks, but easy fight. I mean, since this is a thing, and it's not really a thing on every boss, but this is a thing on this boss, if you can fight a boss and not have to see a single one of their attack animations, you pretty much have to do it. You're saving so much time. Like, even if you were to fight that fight legitimately and do the same damage output and not have to heal, if Flea was attacking you, it'd be like 3 minutes slower.
Yeah, just because like his counterattacks takes up so much time, and then there's like the chaos attack that he has. There's just probably one of the longest attack animations average for any of the bosses, just because all of them just take forever to do on his end.
All right, so this particular fight with the Decedents, it's not necessarily tricky. Like, it's pretty easy to get the right way, but the reason that we're attacking it this particular way instead of holding X is we're setting up criticals for Frog, because like I said earlier, the ending value of this fight is going to give us crits for the next fight, or at least set up the crits for next fight. And yeah, Frog has the most potential for damage for any party member here. So that plus the 50% bonus from the Berserker plus the double bonus from crits, he's going to be doing a lot of damage.
Which is very important at the second half of the Slash fight, where his counterattacks are super strong, and since the unequipped glitches do not affect that at all, you definitely want to have the fight wrap up as quickly as possible, because otherwise you're going to be using a ton of revives and a ton of heals, and it's going to be a bad time.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Like, using Slash here instead of a regular attack, Chrono's regular attack should be doing like 100 to about 105, 108, but the Slashes are only doing about 90. But the way that crits work, it's like loaded up in a row, and if Chrono were to attack when Frog was going to get a crit, it would probably waste it. Where Chrono's not doing as much damage, he's not getting the same benefit from the 2x bonus from a crit as Frog is. So we want Frog to get all the crits. So it's actually faster for Chrono to attack for slightly less with a Slash than to eat up one of the potential crits that Frog would have in the fight.
Yeah, Chrono's crit would be doing like 5 to 6 more damage than Frog's regular attack.
Yeah.
There, so it's just, like you said, it's an enormous waste of a crit, so. Everything looking good so far on the fight.
Yeah.
As you can see, again, the unequipped witch making the slashes / attack, or tech attack, laughably low damage.
Yeah, it's the same attack that Messamune uses as a counter. And since it's all wind-based, we have protection from that thanks to the unequipped glitch. It's doing about 10%, 10 to 15% of the damage that it normally would. So instead of hitting for 9, it should be hitting for like 60 or 70 damage. Alright, so Frog's going to get a nice string of 5 crits in a row here. I mean, that's like 2,000 damage in 5 attacks. It's kind of obscene for this point in the game.
Yeah, having your base attack doing 400 damage is, or almost 400 is pretty ludicrous, considering that, like, in a casual run at this point, I don't think anybody would be able to do that with a solo attack, and you'd probably be struggling to reach that with anything other than, like, X Strike or, you know, like, some similar dual tech.
So Chrono and Robo shooting the blank, so Frog can keep on critting. And that should be it. Slash goes into his counter phase. But luckily he only has the counter phase when he's at very, very low HP, so one more Frog attack and bye-bye. GG's.
The days of the 8-frame mid-tonic, gone forever.
Yeah, the 8-frame mid-tonic was, I don't know, it was all pretty hilarious.
Slash used to be a much more dangerous fight back then, probably at the level of Masamune in terms of run killing potential, but nowadays if you're on the script, you should be okay as long as you don't mess up the fight input wise.
Did that ever troll you back in the day? Were you doing runs along that line?
No, but I was definitely watching at that point, watching runs and stuff. But no, I never had the pleasure of being trolled by that particular fight.
And the ultimate troll that was the script that was needlessly difficult because it was the only one that worked on Virtual Console. It was actually an easier script that you could do on actual SNES hardware that was safer and easier. But the person who came up with the script played on Virtual Console, so that was what was in the notes.
Yeah, no, I've only officially ever run New Game Plus, so
I see. Yeah,
I've never had the opportunity to do any of this stuff on my own in an official sense. I've done some of the stuff just for funsies, but never actually like in a timed run.
All right, guillotine room. I always like seeing how players approach this because there's so many different ways that you can. It is possible to make a quick cycle there, and KO just snuck in underneath that. That wasn't quite the quickest cycle, but that was a really clean guillotine room.
Now we get the little known, until you run the game, the rollies just roll right past you. They don't really seem to care about you at all.
Yeah.
And then the sneaking by the corner on the steps there.
Yeah, making sure not to fall down. So this is probably the toughest section of the Mega Stair Climb. There's a lot of really tricky skips, and if you want to go for like the very high level versions that barely save more time, but do save time if you want to do it, it's very easy to kill a run trying to save like an extra 10 frames here or there. Yeah. These fights are relatively straightforward. You don't want to get attacked by anything, and Frog should have a crit in queue. Alright, that was really nice, not getting attacked at all. And in comes my girl, Luca. We're going to burn the place down.
Yeah, Luca's fire tech doing damage to one-hit the jugglers. That will be upcoming with the quad juggler fight. A little bit quicker than keeping Robo in the party.
There are some pretty fancy laser spin strats with Robo, but the problem is the laser spin advances the RNG so much that it's basically one mistake and you'll be off RNG.
Well, as a Robo aficionado, I'm sure you'll figure it out soon enough, DD.
Here we got some X Strike. Go, go, go. Team Red Green. And one of the other sort of minor side reasons for swapping Luca in here is we're going to have her in the party for the text with Ozzy just before the Magus fight, and her text is a little bit shorter than Robo's text. Alright, so KO making sure that he's not facing up or down, like his actual Chrono sprite isn't facing up or down, it's facing left or right as he goes through the door. And he slides right past the battle trigger that's in the doorway. So yeah, this isn't actually an Aussie fight, it's a Switch fight. $125 is looking good. We're looking for a 119 on this last switch. The way that the RNG sort of funnels through these 4 fights, there's really only 4 values that you can end the fight with. And 119 means that they're in the right window for a very favorable Magus fight. Alright, incoming Robo. Go to shelter anyway. I don't think you need it to, but there's not really any reason not to, I guess.
Yeah, why not?
Alright, everyone get hype. Incoming music. Incoming Blackwind. And of course, my favorite, Magus standing on a fire and not getting burnt.
Well, he's blue and the fire's blue, so it's like a... You know, it's like in Pokemon where the same tech doesn't do damage.
All right, so we're looking for a 30 damage roll and a shadow barrier. It's very important that you hold X at the beginning of the fight, but you don't want to hold X into the beginning of the fight. You kind of want to hold X as the fight begins. So right about here, as soon as you see the battle menu, that's when you want to start holding X. It's looking good, shadow barrier. So now it's just a matter of playing this out until we get past the barrier phase.
Yep. Shadow, lightning, I believe, is the first 3 barriers to know that you're going good.
Yeah, shadow, lightning. So if you notice, because of the unequipped glitch and Robo's basically doubled magic potential, hitting for almost 600. Magus has 6,666 HP, and he will go into his second phase at about 4,200 HP. So we only need to do about 2,400 damage altogether. And between the damage that Frog's doing with attacks and the 30 damage that Chrono did at the beginning, we should be able to do just enough damage to push him with only 4 barriers. So here's a lightning. One more lightning barrier, and in fact, we've done enough damage that we don't even need to do a lightning. We can do a slash, which is lightning elemental, so it'll still have the same effect. But it'll set Chrono's cursor memory to slash, and we're able to mash any attacks of his at this point without having to fumble around in the menu too much. And this is kind of...
Oh, go ahead. I was going to say, I believe the slash animation is slightly faster than the lightning animation as well, so you're saving a little bit of frames there, too.
And you also want to get 3 slashes in there. The one will cause him to go into a second phase, but he actually doesn't jump into the second phase until he gets his turn up. So he has roughly 1 whole turn of just being... very, very weak to lightning. So if you can get 3 slash attacks in there, you're doing an extra 800 damage. So he's really only at about 3,400 health. And you just want to smash your way through, getting as many crits with Frog as you can. Ideally, that's the only dark matter we see. Yeah,
it cuts it pretty close. But yeah, if everything goes right, you only get to see 1. I don't know the exact amount of time you have remaining before the second dark matter fires off, but it's pretty close. You can get it pretty easily if you don't get the timing right on these attacks, and you're not mashing fast enough on the regular attacks for Robo and Frog.
Should be pretty close here. And there we are.
Bam.
Awesome fight. Yes, we got a official SRL time of 1:54:07. Nice.
And
GG's.
Blazing fast.
Yep, that's a
run there.
Anything sub 155 is really good. Anything sub 150 is like super hot. And anything sub 2 hours shows that you've spent a lot of time practicing and learning the game.
Yeah, sub 2 hour Magus is always respectable.
Yeah,
that's as a if you're a budding runner, that's kind of your first goal is a sub 2 Magus. It's kind of what you want to shoot for. And then from there, you kind of just get all the extra stuff that gets you that extra 5 minutes back learning that slowly. Yeah, GG's Kaio. And if that's a PB, that's sick.
Yeah, that's a race PB. His last race time was a 2:05:30.
Oh wow, that's a monster PB.
Yeah, I know KO's probably got about the same time, maybe a little bit better in his 100% runs, but that's a really nice time. There he is. It looks like he might be joining us. Hello, hello, my friend.
Hoi.
Good game, good game.
I have no sound.
You've
Nice.
got no sound?
Well, no joining.
So you can't hear us? He probably has to reload. Yeah, that makes sense. We were having some issues just before the race. There's a new Discord update.
Oh, Discord.
So there is another race coming up in about a half hour. I think you guys should maybe stick around. There might be a quick host or something popping over to another race. But in the meantime, if you stick to this channel, there'll be another Chrono Trigger race between Elgar and Jerry, the number 2 seed, and Lunchtime, who I believe was the number 11 seed. I'm going to just double check this here because I have the power.
Yeah, that's a definite must-watch race. So grab a snack, grab another drink. KO saying it's a race and super GGs. You always love to see actual PBs in races.
Yeah, and that came down to the super solid play. Like he had a really awesome skip section doing Hecarim skip, Sombor skip, and the end of time save anywhere. All of that went really, really well for him.
And he got on that one skip too. Totally got you, which is even better.
Yeah, so it looks like there was a bit of technical issue there for KO to pop in. So I guess we're just going to leave this as is for now. But like I said, please stick around. It'll be Elgar and Jerry versus Lunchtime in the winners brackets. Winners round 2, I believe. Oh no, this is winners round 3. Wow, yeah, the tournament's round 2's already done.
Just flying by. You blink and you miss it.
There's also a bunch of races coming up tomorrow. Myself, I'm going to be racing Ottavino at 6 p.m. And yeah, other than that, there'll be Red Slash versus Kenart after.
Yep, Ren Kiha right after. Be pretty much right against it. So you guys better do. You and Otta better be quick. But DD will actually be commentating the next match, and I'll be handing it off to Kiha to join him once that gets up. So yeah, like we were saying, grab a snack, grab a drink, go to the bathroom, come back, and get comfortable for another super sick race. Hopefully we'll see some more PBs. Maybe we'll see some news this time. And GG's to Tzoonami, despite his getting trolled by Masamune. We haven't figured out to his run, but it looked like he just got some unfortunate Masamune nonsense. Basically, was what team chat figured out for that.
Yep. Always just resort to chat.
And definitely give both runners a follow.
Yes.
They're awesome. They deserve your follows. They deserve your love. And super crazy GGs for legit PB for KO. That's absolutely amazing.
One last shout out to Speed Gaming for hosting us. It's awesome that they're doing the work. Mr. Broadstone in the background. helping us out. Yeah, stay tuned. We'll see you guys very shortly.